Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of your faithful trip. It started in the firmament, and then we all got tricked. Life was great when we were young, with all the things we believed. Then it all got hard, unbearable, and we know we're being deceived. Forgotten, ignored, secret, and hidden. Topics that talk about how water is knowledge. Now drink from the fountain. Let's pour some on you now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plain Mundane Show. This is Alex. Today, I want to talk to you about some things that have been weighing heavily on my mind. And I don't know why. It's just, things happen and they're on your mind. And I've been up this morning early, and I didn't sleep hardly at all. I just kept thinking all night. Have you ever had a night where you just keep thinking, you don't get to sleep much because your brain won't turn off? And I work at a restaurant, and yesterday was Saturday. Today's Sunday. Yesterday, I went in at about before 2 o'clock, about 1:45, and got out at about 11 p.m. It was a busy day, but when I drive deliveries and I don't listen to the radio ever. I never turn on the. Sometimes I'll think, let me turn on the radio, and I'll hear it. It corrupts my vibration and where I'm at, and I turn them off. I cannot even listen to the radio anymore. Oh, especially if the DJs come on and the commercials and if I listen to Spanish stations too, something like, tú tienes que ir a la dentista, vas a la clínica para la Puebla. It's like, oh my gosh, they're just like advertising everything, and the songs themselves and the messages and everything I'm watching on YouTube about the messages and the handlers. And, I don't even like to get into all that stuff. I don't even watch on YouTube that much more about subjects that are truth or controversial or whatever, I spend more time on my own videos. I almost don't even have time to watch YouTube anymore. And I go with my own thoughts. And when I drive, I leave my radio off. And all I've been thinking about for the last 48 hours is what I'm going to tell you. What has happened in my life. So I made a list. This is my little spiral notebook I keep by my computer. It's you probably have a desk where whatever you're doing with all your programs and screens and everything, you keep a little notepad where you can actually physically write with a pen. And I thought about 7 spiritual experiences I've had in my life that are significant spiritual experiences that most people never have. I'd call them, I looked up paranormal. I don't like the word paranormal. I would not call them paranormal, but I would call them spiritual, out of body, and extraterrestrial. But for some reason in my life, the reason why I became on YouTube with this moniker I created, Alex Aquarius, is because of the experiences I've had in my life and the realization through myself that I just need to create a channel so I can get all of this out there to people. There are people who are going to learn this and see this and appreciate it. And I'm not that good. I'm pretty crappy about details and tags and marketing, and not marketing, but the video production. But I'm improving. And actually, if you look at my video today, let me ask you something. Look at this. Let me show you. If you notice, if you've seen some of my prior videos, doesn't everything look a lot clearer with a lot more light and brightness and clarity? I was looking at buying a new computer because my frames kept freezing, and I was like, and I would talk and everything would just freeze. And my speech was not syncopating with the video. But what I did is I went into my Celeron processor in my notebook here on Windows 8, and I changed some of the settings, like instead of focusing the energy of the processor on the programs, to focus on the background support. And look at that. Suddenly, you can see my frames on the wall. You can see what I've got on the mantle. Uh, and there, it doesn't seem to be catching up. I've tested this a few times before I started this one, and it seems to be running better. Let me adjust my V-neck. So, all right, let's get into this topic today. This is what I've been thinking about for the last 48 hours. All of these things. Who am I and why and what can I share? It drives me. I can't stop it. It just comes out of me. I don't choose this, and people who are not in tune or spiritually in tune or aware of their own spirit in or outside of their body or their own consciousness and where they come from, they look at this stuff and they just think, oh my gosh, that just sounds like I had one comment I just read. Somebody said, it sounds like you're on acid and you have delirium. I am just a human being myself. So these 7 experiences that I've had in my life are in order of chronology and age. My first one was a close encounter with aliens in my front yard, which I just shared in the last couple of months. If you look up close encounter with my mom aboard craft, telepathy, friendly abduction. The second one I had, when I was 8 years old, I was baptized in the Mormon church, and I went into a baptismal font, and I was baptized. I was dunked in the water, and when I came back up, I wiped the water off my face, and I went to walk up the stairs, and I felt my heart surrounded by a shell, kind of. Like I felt my heart just kind of jump, and it just balled up like a walnut. I keep thinking of the word walnut. My heart balled up, and I look at that now with what I know about Babylon and the cube and Kabbalah and the black cube of Saturn and mystery school and rituals and nothing new under the sun. And I see that when I performed that baptism ritual, which represents, by the way, the resurrection of the sun god Baal, when he became the sun god after Astarte, the whore of Babylon, had him killed, and then she was married to her son, for hell's sake. And if you guys don't know all this stuff, you're going to think, who is this guy? Oh my man. To me, this is just my common parlance every day. All right. So I felt this closing off of my heart after I had performed a baptismal ritual. So I'm telling you, the baptism ritual when I was 8 years old as a Mormon affected me with evil, and it closed off my heart, and I literally felt it physically. Like that must have been the point where I was possessed by some spirit or demon that controlled me for a while, for a good portion of my life, until I broke free. You can believe that or not, or you can be with me or not, to where I am. You just have to look at my channel. I've got more than 300 videos. If you know who I am, maybe you know what I'm talking about. When I was older, I went to college after high school, and I was at what's called BYU, Idaho, in Rexburg, Idaho. And after my first semester at school, and I thought, I don't need college, and I went to Idaho Falls with a friend in his grandparents' basement, and we lived, and him, and his cousin, we were just the partying fools, drinking beer and cruising around town thinking we were cool. And then I had a demonic attack, and I actually had the classic, if you've read about them, I was in a room where basically I was pinned to my bed to get to the what happened. I was pinned to my bed. I couldn't breathe. The room was swirling with this dark matter cloud. And the window, I was in a basement, and the window that was above me, I was sleeping on a cot. I could not even see the window. And I had to rebuke it. I had remembered some words my mother taught me, like, if anything evil ever attacks you, or a devil. And I didn't even know what she was talking about. Like, yeah, I pictured this little devil with a pitchfork coming after me, trying to poke me. But she said, just say, leave me in the name of Jesus Christ. I rebuked it, and it worked, and the room cleared up, and everything was fine after that. So I had that experience. So at that age, I'd already had an alien fifth or sixth kind encounter aboard the craft, being shown things by them, and had my memory wiped. My baptismal ritual with feeling my heart entrapped by possession, and by 18 or 19 years old, having a demonic attack for my discussions and things that I was contemplating about at that time with a few friends of mine, that we were uh, investigating and looking into things that maybe we should not have. And the fourth one, when I was 19, I went on a mission, because after I had that experience, I went back home to Houston, and I swore to God, and I started praying, and I said, I will not ever enter those thoughts in my brain. I want to go on a mission. I wanted to serve my church. And I went to Argentina. I was called, and I got a letter from the presidency of the church in Salt Lake City, and went on my mission to Cordoba, Argentina. And I was teaching a family. And I actually had, during a discussion with the family that we wanted to baptize of 6 people, I had a heavenly visit. And I actually went out of my body, and I was sitting in a discussion, and my companion was talking, and the 6 people, including myself and him, there were 8 of us, and I got charged, and this energy just surged. It was like a buzzing, or this. It was so intense. I couldn't move a muscle. I didn't even want to move a finger like that, or I thought I would just explode. It was like a catalyst you can't handle or control, and it just popped like a soap bubble. It just went, and I was above the house, looking down at the kitchen table at myself, my companion, the 6 people in the family. And then I just turned and started flying off through the planets. You can see that experience if you look up my heaven visit. I met God in Christ. I don't have to provide a link. Just look Alex Aquarius. Just look that up. Later on in my life, I came back from my mission. I got married in the City Temple as a Mormon, initiated into the mystery school with all of the signs and tokens and death penalties and things that go with Babylonian type ritual. Completely believed I was serving God. Children had very tough to have handicap in her brain that I did not know. She's very pretty, but wow. Even when I forced her, I mediated, she freaked out in front of the mediation, and it coaxed the lawyer to go into the room with her. It's like nobody wanted to go feed the Alex. And I lived. I said, look, I know with that. And they were like, oh my God, let's get you. I've been out of that for 12 years. Since then, I've been adjusting and having other experiences. I met another woman that I was engaged to, was actually married to for 6 weeks. She was 15 or 16, my junior. Uh, I was in North Dallas, in the Frisco, North Dallas, Plano area, and just out there. I had a 6-figure job, traveling the world, whenever I had free time, I was on my Harley Davidson downtown at the biker clubs. I was at the lake, the yacht clubs, Dallas Tollway, the dance clubs, the underground bars downtown, the Ghost Bar by the American Airlines Center. I've seen it all and been into all of that stuff, and know a lot of influential people in the Dallas Fort Worth area because I partied with them basically. I'm not a perfect person. Let me tell you this before I tell you all of my experiences. I'm not a perfect person, and mainly because I've been confused all of my life. I feel like I'm confused. I've had people attack me, do things to me. I've been betrayed. I've been tricked. I've had people after my money until one day, I remember walking into work one day and I thought, who said I have to make money? What if I just decided to stop doing, uh, you know, all these things that I trained for in my college degrees and my career? What if I just decided to stop all of that and try to go off the grid? Because I can, because I've got the will and the desire and the power to do so. And I'm still doing it today. And sometimes it gets rough, but once you make that commitment, that was my turning point. Was an ex-wife that took me to court for 8 years, like every 2 or 3 months. How much money is he making now? Is he going to change my child support? She never got a dime of alimony and got thousands of dollars a month. I was paying for her mortgage payment, her car payments, and my kids were suffering. And at one point, I told the judge, I said, my attorney told me, he said, when you talk to this judge, he said, just tell him, he said, he didn't go into court with me, but he was a friend of mine. He said, I know the judge, I work with him all the time. Just spew out, I pay her mortgage payment, her car payments, and about 59% of all of her expenses. Why are you after me for higher child support? And the children aren't even home. And the lawyer told me, my friend, the attorney, he said, the judge is going to look at you and say, what does that have to do with anything? And he said, look at the floor and say, nothing, Your Honor, and don't look at him. And I did it, and it worked. And I was paying her $4,000 a month, and then it went down to $3,200, and then $2,800, and then we were at $1,600. And that day when I left the courtroom, I just had one more son, and he had like 5 more months program till he was 18, and my child support went down to $162 a month, from $4,000 a month to $162 a month, with someone who all she wanted, and all of that money was spent on her, and she never got a dime in alimony because she had a great job, but she spent all her money and she's bankrupt. I don't mean to talk about her, but I'm telling you, I've had a rough life, guys. It hasn't been. I'm not complaining. I would not trade my life for anybody, because after this life, I know to God. I can't wait. It's not like I'm in a hurry, but I know there's a reward. Not a reward, I don't even like that word, but I know there's a life after this life. And there are a lot of things to look forward to. Leave with the knowledge that I have now after what I've been through, I think you'll be able to avoid the traps that ensnare you with Lucifer in what we call the fourth dimension, or the astral world. Let me get back to my list. Number 4, I'm telepathic. Evidently, I've done this a lot. I can't do command. I'm not very good at meditating. I don't get up. I'm not one of these people that will show you and start making videos. Hey guys, here's how you meditate. I don't. When I think about meditating, I go, oh, okay, and I just try to concentrate and focus on some point. And that's about it. That's all I can do. I'm not very, but when things happen to me, they're deep and broad. The first one was when I had my alien encounter when I was about 6.5, 7. All of that was telepathic. Aboard the craft with 3 to 6 aliens, with my mother in the yard. Telepathy, this was about 7 or 8 years ago, with my second future wife, fiance. I was meditating in a bathtub, and I had this big oval tub, jacuzzi tub, and I was floating in it. And I completely, that's the best way to meditate, is if you're I was trying to do it right, and I was floating, and I thought, let me just see if I can communicate with her. I'll call her. So I said her name over and over again, and I felt like I was really in the zone. I was just completely isolated. I had no sensation of my body, and I was able to separate my spirit from my body. So then it was over. I get out of the bathtub, I get dressed, I go back downstairs, I go out, I clean the pool, I'm working on the bike, I do different things, clean. And she comes home from shopping at the mall and the grocery store like 3 hours later, 3.5 hours later, and hey, how are you? I help her carry bags in, and we're talking, and she goes, hey, she goes, were you meditating and calling my name about 3 hours ago? And I had completely forgotten already, and I said, I was. That's right, I forgot. I was, yeah. Did you? She goes, yeah. She goes, I'm sitting at a traffic light in front of the mall going to another store, and she goes, I just hear you calling my name over and over again. So it works, and I did it. You know, one thing I left off this list, I should say number 8, I've been hypnotically regressed. And that works also because it was because of her. And the night we met at a blues jam where I was on stage, and we had a discrepancy about how we met and who said what and why we hooked up, and whether the sin was her fault or my fault. And I kept saying, no, you said this and we went and did that. And she's like, no, I did not. So we actually went to a hypnotist who was a marriage counselor, and it was weird. She used binaural beats, and I put these headphones on, and she talked to me, and then she brought up the instance, and I told her what happened, and I remember things. And I know it worked because I actually smelled my leather jacket, and I had completely forgotten that night that I had my leather jacket on. And I told her after I came out of the hypnotism, I said, wow, I was there. I know it was real because I told her I smelled my jacket. I completely forgot I had my leather jacket on. But I had another telepathy event with my mother when I was about 14 or 15. And I was out riding my bike in the street in front of the house, jumping ramps and doing whatever, playing basketball with my friends, skateboards. And I came in and I got to get a drink of water, and I was at the sink and I was making lemonade or whatever. And she was at the stove making a stew, I think, or something for dinner, or cooking beans. And I was thinking about my friend that lived down a few houses. His name was Guy. His first name was Guy, Guy. And I'm thinking about him. And suddenly my mom goes, she goes, yeah, so where is Guy right now? And I looked at her and I said, well, he's at summer camp and he's off with his dad. They're out of state right now. And she looked at me and she said, what? And I said, I've just answered you. And she said, I didn't say anything. I wasn't talking to you. She said, but that's what I was thinking of. So we learned, my mother and I learned, we used to actually play a game when I was a kid that I think she bought at a garage sale, where you would have these, it was a mind reading game. Maybe some of you saw this when you were young in the 70s. Had these cards with different colors like red, blue, green, yellow, and words, and you would hold the card and try to signal to the other person what you were looking at, and if they got it right, they got a point. It's like playing Clue or Yahtzee, but the point was, if you could communicate what you were looking at to the other person and they got it right, then they got a point. And then it was your turn, and then they would have to look at a card and try to communicate to you what they were looking at. And if you saw it and got it right, you get a point. That's the kind of games I played when I was a teenager with my mom. So after that, I probably had more experiences that I cannot remember. But the next big experience in my life was in 2012 when I had my near-death experience. in the shower because I drowned for over an hour. And I was in the shower tub, which had about a 5-inch high plexiglass square tub, about 2.5 feet on each side, glass door next to my bathtub in a big master bath. And I was sick and I threw up and vomited and I hit my head on the wall and it knocked me out and I hit the floor and I covered the drain and the water covered my body and my head and my face was on the floor and the water was like 2 or 3 inches above my head. The water, the vomit and everything had pooled around my head and was eating my hair, the bacteria from the salad, infected salad I ate, and the bubbles were going up the tile. That's what I saw when I was out of body in my death experience. But I actually also went to a place that I've heard people talk about when they see the souls who have recently died. And it's like a depressurization. I want to say like quarantine. It's not quarantine. You're not going to infect other spirits, but it's like a decompression room. When you die, let's say if you died and just you didn't even know you were going to die and you got T-boned by a semi-truck and your body was just obliterated. Suddenly, you're in the spirit world and you're in this room and you're put in a cubicle-like module block. And some people are still trying to deal with the fact they don't realize they're dead. That's a lot of problem, I think, with a lot of people is when you talk about haunting and ghosts, or if people have experiences where they're dead being tortured and in agony, they don't realize they're dead. And it takes a while until you gather your senses and figure things out and you come out of your decompression room. I was actually in one. These two beings came above me and one of them said, "What's he doing here?" He's not in the shower. I actually turned around 180 degrees and I went back to the shower. And that's in that experience in the video I have on YouTube. But it was a room about as big as Miami. Some people I've heard say it's on the moon. There's actually a cubic building somewhere on the moon, and that would make sense because you have the 28-day menstruation cycle and a womb that you get assigned to when you incarnate. And by the way, resurrection is an invention of the Whore of Babylon, and it's not true. None of the Christian churches are true that teach the cross, because Jesus did not die on the cross. He escaped. He must have had a near-death experience also, but he was resuscitated and escaped Israel and lived. There are tons of secular books about him and what he did after his escape from Israel. And he was known as Isa, he who was crucified in Jerusalem, when he taught in Persia, in the Himalayas, in India, in the Zoroastrian region, things like that. So the last one I want to share with you is a doozy for me lately. This happened about 5 years ago. I had just been separated. I was living by my house in McKinney, Texas. Big 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom house with a pool, by myself. I was scared to be alone. I kept the TV on all the time. This was like 2012, 2013. And one night I had the TV off and I kept studying. I got into driving downtown into Dallas, and I was going to Dealey Plaza, and I was pacing the plaza, and I went to all of the points. I went up onto the pedestal where Abraham Zapruder stood when he filmed the Zapruder film, and I walked out into the street where the X is, where he was shot, and I went to the jail, and I went to the book depository building, and I went to the knoll, and I went to the train bridge, and I walked on the train track. I used to go there a lot, and I even went with friends of mine, and a friend that stayed and lived with me from Hawaii for 3 months. We went there 2 times, and I went there with a girlfriend, my ex-fiance 2 or 3 times. I was going there a lot doing them. I was reading books and every video I could find, and I know a lot. I know enough to write a book about this thick on the JFK assassination, but I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it because of the guy who died that had this voice that Dana Carvey impersonated. If you write a book on that and you tell the truth about what you found, you're not going to live long on this world. But I'll tell you what happened. I remote viewed. This is my 7th or 8th experience. We're getting to the end here. I remote viewed John F. Kennedy's assassination as him sitting in the limo with Jackie on my left and experienced what she did to me as him. And actually, you can believe this or not, I actually heard his voice going, yeah, my throat was cut. And I'm at the same time, my throat's burning, and I'm sitting at my computer, and I had watched the Zapruder film like 50 times, and I started looking at that limo over and over again, and I found the colorized version. There was a guy who took the Zapruder film and he colorized it, and then because it's digital now, he stabilized the car in the center of the screen, and he made it so that all of the outer peripheral stuff moves around, but like the grass, but the car, you can focus on what the people are doing in the car. And I've seen people that have seen that video now saying this is fake because the background looks pasted. But I was aware of that in 2009, 2010 when the man who did that did it and posted it because I was watching. And he did it on purpose. But it's just so you can focus on the inside of the limo. So I looked at each person in the limo. A lot of people said the driver shot him, Greer, or the other guy in the right seat with the shiny grease in his hair. What was his name? And you had Governor Connolly and his wife. And I think I can name about 13 probable shooters that were identified in the plaza that day. And a lot of them were there to cause distractions because the main shooter, I'm saying, was the woman sitting to his left. She had a weapon in her right hand. It's actually in one of the frames. You can see it up in the air with her elbow on the back of the seat and a flash in the sunlight, and then it's gone. Right after himself, you know. But what they don't show you is when I kept watching that over and over again, I'm watching and suddenly my throat just burned, and I'm like, now mind you, I've never remote viewed before. I've never tried. I don't know anything about it. Nobody's ever taught me how to do it. I'm just suddenly watching the Kennedy assassination. Oh, and I literally watched it 50. You know what triggered me was I'm looking at everybody in the limo, and then I thought, well, what's Jackie doing? And I looked at her face, and I recognized the face she was making, because that was the face that my ex-wife would make when she thought she was literally murdering me. And I thought, she's making that face. What is she doing? So I kept replaying it over and over, and I was like, and then suddenly my throat started burning, and I went. Then I couldn't breathe, and all of my muscles relaxed in my upper body, and it's like my esophagus just sunk down into my trachea. And I'm like, I was trying to cough it out. I couldn't do anything. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to die now sitting in front of my computer and choke on my esophagus and fall on the floor out of my chair, and they're going to find me here. And then suddenly, I heard something behind me, about 3 feet behind me over my right shoulder, and it was him. It was JFK. And I heard his voice, same accent, same, yeah, my throat's cut. At the same time, it stopped, and I didn't turn around and go, what, who's that? I looked at my computer and I thought, okay. I was actually mad. I said, all right, why me? People who know me know that I tell all of these wild tales and things that have happened to me. And here's another one. And just immediately I said, why me? Why do I get this information? And he said, he was a distance away. It was like a gym, and he'd walk over the half court, just going out the back rear door of the other side of the high school gym. He said, boom, with his same accent. And I thought, the moon, literally in my head, what fucking answer is that? I mean, I'm telling you, I've had so many, someone speaking to me, even if it's an ex-president. And I got the impression that he was tickled and amused, but he was happy that I saw it, and he wanted to get the message out there. She was the main shooter. If you look at it, you can see it. So I remote viewed the Kennedy assassination. That's my last big spiritual experience I've had. So those are my 7 or 8. I don't know how I injected one that I've had in my life, and that's why I have Alex Aquarius YouTube channel, because actually, you know what, I studied numerology for a while. I don't dwell on it or look into it that much, but I am an 11. What's it called? Your life path. My soul urge is a 9, and my other one's I'm an 1199. If that means anything, it might, with the direction of the luminaries above the waters and the patterns they're in. Who knows? You know, some of the truths that are used by evil forces could actually be truths for divine forces that are just not important or used for those purposes. You know? So anyway, I thought I would share with you today, who is Alex Aquarius. This video might have been a little bit harder to watch all the way to the end if you don't know who I am or you haven't watched me, but I'm telling you why I chose to be Alex Aquarius and start a YouTube channel, and why I think I have something to say, and why I post the videos that I do, because I seem to be um, a magnet for these spiritual out-of-body type experiences. And I'm not perfect at all. You know, I'm telling you, I'm a sinner. I've, you know, I've done, not a horrible person, but you know, I've done the typical sins that most people do. Um, but I try to keep myself pure now. And in fact, I don't even want a relationship. I'm so involved in my thoughts and my spirituality that it's hard for me to meet a woman and date a woman and want to pursue that right now in my life. Plus, I'm in my 50s. It's easier to live alone and just ignore that. But I'm feeling like I want to turn it back on. But I'm not rushed. So I hope this video makes sense to you people. I say you people. I sound like Ross Perot. You people. I hope this video makes sense to everybody. I just wanted to tell you, those were my experiences that I wrote down in my notebook when I went to make this video. My close encounter with aliens, the closing off of my heart after the baptismal ritual, which is the baptism and resurrection of Tammuz on winter solstice, performed in church Christianity, my demonic attack, my heaven visit, my experiences with telepathy, my near-death experience, and my remote viewing experience, having never learned how to do that. But that's what I call it, is a remote viewing experience. So that's the video today. I post a video every day now, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell, and just wait until I post another video. See you tomorrow.